1. Fragments of silicon. The revolution will be digitized.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, European interviews, or whatever we're calling this. Anyway, today we have our good friend Ralph Egas of Abstraction Games back for the third time, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Third time.
And it's been about 6 months since the last interview, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah, about half a year. I'm not sure exactly, but sounds about right.
I'm like, probably not an exact matchup, but it's good enough for our uses here. And I see you've been busy.
We're always busy,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I just got your list of notes here, and I'm like, as always, you've got a bunch of projects.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, that's right. I mean, since I'm not sure, I guess a couple of those were already discussed like 6 months ago, give or take. But those in and by itself evolved as well, so it's pretty interesting what's going on.
yeah, we'll probably still cover them because it's been 6 months,
Hmm.
and I'm it's like I'm imagining that's like Arc is still being worked on.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and indeed, that's probably a good place to start.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, you're working on Arc Survival Evolved by Studio Wildcard.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, these are the console versions, correct?
Well, yes and no. So we started a while back, and that's probably what we discussed earlier
Hmm.
on the Piece 4 conversion of Arc. All right, so that was our first project with them, and that got released in December, the Piece 4 version, and that was the it's a kind of strange story because everything else is like in early access, while the PS4 version is not, because there's no such thing as early access on PS4. So it needed to be like a full release version that it couldn't have any of those tier C, bugs and crashes or whatever. So we needed, in a very short amount of time, we need to take care of that. But that's done. That's behind us. Um, Now we are doing maintenance on both PS4 and Xbox One. So they did the Xbox One version themselves, getting it to run. Now we're going to get it through certification for a day and date release on all platforms, including a re-release on PS4, if you will. So that's one thing, and we'll continue providing maintenance of those console versions throughout the year, and probably the quarter one of next year as well, after release. Okay, so that's one thing, and then there's the complete redesign of the UI, at least for the inventory system, which we recently concluded, and we have some footage for that as well. I believe I provided.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's very
give me 1 second to cue that up.
Yeah. Hang
all
on.
right.
Yeah, our stream operator will have that up on the screen in a bit.
Hmm.
But anyway, what has been done to the UI system?
Well, a lot. I mean, there's two perspectives on that. So first of all, the original UI was like kind of an SI for them initially because they went into early access, and things like menu systems that is usually comes as a secondary priority, some kind of thing, right? And it's, you can clearly see this, but there's this one thing that's very important. The community expects, they're mostly power users that are used to this kind of UI and all the shortcuts and all the features that it has. But it's very, you know, call this. It's like very hard to get into because it's not that intuitive. All right. So our job was to make it, look sexy, but at the same time, have all those features still present. And that was a tough challenge. But I think we succeeded in doing this. So if you look at the old version and now the new version, everything, at least for the inventory system, is still there, but it's looking better and it's more intuitive and it's more logical to use.
And how is it in relationship to using a controller?
Very good question. So, all right. So the first goal we needed to hit was like, we were doing this on PC, not console. All right. So it was supposed to be just PC. That's a mouse keyboard kind of situation, and that needs to be improved. So we did that, but at the same time, it still needed to quote unquote work on console, so on gamepad. So on the PC, there's a gamepad option. It's working. It's not brilliant. It's not even at this point. It's not brilliant yet, and we still need to do some work. So that's a separate story. But the first thing for them was they needed the PC version, the UI, to be replaced, and that's what we did first, right? So we're totally working on getting it to work. You know, kind of a similar fashion to what we look at as the benchmark for the best PC to console UI redesign, which is Diablo 3. I mean, I think Blizzard did a tremendous job of making it, dare I say, play even better on a console than on the PC version. But that's my take on it. So there's still some work to be done there to make it really work well on a console with gamepad, but at least it's there, and on PC it's working brilliantly.
Yeah, and I have that trailer running now.
Okay. Is there any sound?
No, there is no sound.
No, there's no sound there. This is just I told the guys at the office that we're doing an interview today, and they for the purpose for this show they actually put something together. So they have the old UI, the design phase, and it's showing right now. I can see it. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks to your team for doing this.
Yeah, it's awesome. I saw this only just today, so because I'm on a short vacation, and it's great what they did. I'm very happy.
Yeah. It's like implementation. Sorry, sorry for being silent here. It's also I should point out for our audio listeners, you won't be able to see this.
Yeah, it'll be on the Twitch page.
Yeah, it's like we put out like two versions of the show. So.
Yeah, I just have it running in a loop, so if you want to move on, you can.
Okay. Yeah, until we have a couple other trailers to play a little later on.
Yeah.
But
right.
But while we're still talking about Arc, I can run this.
There's some more Arc to be told.
Right.
Shall I carry on with the effect of the UI? What we did there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So going back a bit, it's like first a PS4 version, right? And that was mostly a technical kind of job. It mostly took engineers making it run perfectly at a high speed with great performance on PS4. That is typically what we've done in the past a lot, right? Doing ports and making it play well because of high performance and optimization stuff. With ArcUI redesign, that's more a creative job than it's a technical kind of job. By doing this, we've proved to Studio Wildcard that we can do that kind of stuff as well. Now, the next step, apart from the maintenance on the console versions, like I told you, we are actually working on the next DLC with them. So in this case, and I'm not going to name any names or whatever. That's kind of not undisclosed right now. But at least I can tell you that we're working along with them on the new DLC because they're working on different things and they needed us to work on it. So we're doing that. So the design, the rough design and storyline and everything was already done. But there's so much work that needs to be done before it should hit the shelves. And the release date is not known at this point, officially at least. I know, but that's a different story. And that's great. This is this is going to be the amalgamation of doing tech and creative work for abstraction on their product. Like if we do this, there's going to be a ton of more work. This is our stepping stones working with them, and that's pretty it's been pretty cool so far. And I have no reason to doubt that we will not be able to nail it. We will be, and it's great. It's great given the opportunity that we're increasingly being able to work on take on our own creative decisions more and more as we go forward, and that's awesome.
Right. So you're determining the direction of this DLC, correct?
Well, no, not really. So this first DLC that we're no, so in total this is the second DLC for Arc, right? This is
Okay.
our first DLC we're working on for them, and the creative work, the biggest parts, the bulk work of the creative work has already been done. All right, so they set the goals for us to work on. So there's a lot of handiwork to be done. There is some creative freedom where we run into issues that weren't that come along with advanced insight, of course. So we have designers working on this. We have a lead designer working on this stuff. So there's some design work to be done, but it's still the idea of and the goal of having this DLC and the story, how this fits in the storyline, has already been designed and thought of. All right, so there's a lot of creative freedom, but it's not at the level where we kind of came up with the idea and are doing this DLC. This is something for future though. So the next DLC, if we get to work on that, which depends on whether we do a good job with this one, is definitely going to be more our creative creation.
Okay. Good to clear that up. Right. So in regards to the console versions and the UI and all that, did you have to take into account like the PlayStation 4 controller versus the Xbox One controller? Like, for example, the PlayStation 4 controller has that pad on it.
Right. Yeah, good question. And to be honest, I don't know where we are right now with that one, because I've been so super busy with all kinds of other stuff. And since November we have a lead designer on board called Tiberius, and he's been brilliant. Taking care of all this stuff with the team, and I don't even sounds kind of embarrassing, but I don't really know where we are with the touchpad on that one. So I definitely should play it real soon, but I don't know at this point. There's been so many things going on. I've been heavily involved in recruitment. I'll get back to that later.
Okay.
But yeah, there's so many things going on with the growing studio. It's crazy.
Understandable. Okay, so moving forward, up next you've got undisclosed project by Blue Isle.
Right, and I'm not sure whether because I'm sure have been working on that, or just when we had the previous interview. So if doesn't matter if we have or have not. Let me just there's not a lot I can tell you about this because everything is still on the wraps. But what I can tell you is this: this is so Blue Isle is working on a new game. It's very it has very similar ingredients as Ark in a way. It's like a survival sandbox open world game, but with a very very different theme, and it's really cool. I love the theme. I love everything the game is offering, and we've been involved in doing all the AI for the NPCs, and we're close to wrapping up this project. So the AI, but also some systems we've been implementing, and some artwork and some special effects for that as well, and it's great. And they're going to go into early access real soon, but I'll leave it to them to provide an official press release. That's not up to us, of course, but that's pretty cool. That was another a case of us not doing a port, but doing some creative work as well as tech work in a different kind of space.
Right, and so to provide some context here, if you know who Blue Isle Blue Isle Studios is probably best known for Slender the Arrival.
Right.
They also did the game Valley.
Yeah.
Which is probably less well known. So
Yeah, it was beautiful though. That's right. Yeah.
It was. It's just, I think people, Slender the Arrival is one of those games that got really, really popular thanks to, YouTube and the
Right.
and the like 10,000 Let's Plays of it.
Just 10,000?
I'm obviously underselling it, but it's one of the games that helped popularize the. I'm not exactly sure how to define that particular style of YouTuber.
Shock
But-
Let's Player or Shock Gamer or whatever?
Yeah,
That's
something.
Reaction cam let's player.
All good names, but I would go with frankly obnoxious Let's Player. It's like I never liked those that style. Oh, but anyway, so yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing what they have up their sleeve. All right. So next up, we have 428 by Spike Chunsoft, and I believe we have a trailer for this one.
Yes, and this one seems to have audio, so I will play that. Give me a moment.
All right. So we'll let that play, and then we'll move forward here.
ファン待望のサウンドノベル最新作がついに登場。渋谷を舞台にしたスピード感あふれる群像劇サスペンス。10時間のうちに起こる謎に満ちた事件を複雑に工作する複数の主人公と共に解き明かしていく。物語は複数の主人公それぞれの視点から描かれている。プレイヤーは1時間ごとに区切られた複数の物語を読み解きながらゲームを進めていく。初心者でもガイドを参考にすることでスムーズにプレイを楽しむことができる。ゲームの中に出される選択肢を選びながら物語を進めていくと、キープアウトというテープが貼られ、それ以上ストーリーを進められなくなってしまうことがある。物語を先に進めるためには赤いキーワードを選択し、同じシチュエーションにいる他の主人公の物語にジャンプ。物語を進め、キープアウトテープを解除しよう。文章中に現れる青いキーワードを選択すると、ティップとしてその言葉の意味や豆知識が表示される。またバッドエンドになってしまった場合でもヒントを頼りにタイムチャートを遡り、再びストーリーを進めていくことができる。ジャンプやヒントを駆使して全ての主人公の物語を To be continued にすると、ストーリーをさらに1時間進めることができる。物語を読み解き、真実への唯一の道を探し出せ。さらに渋谷ロケによる迫力ある映像と実力派キャストによる迫真の演技により、今までのサウンドノベルを超えた映像表現を実現。臨場感あふれる物語の世界を体感せよ。そして豪華スタッフによるコラボレーションも実現。メインシナリオに今道荘の北島幸則、ボーナスシナリオではかまいたちの夜の阿ビ子竹丸によるオリジナルストーリーが楽しめる。あのタイトルームとの協力タッグにより、シナリオ那須きのこ、キャラデザイン竹内隆によるボーナスシナリオも収録。また神木彩による楽曲提供とゲーム出演も実現。謎が謎を呼ぶタイムリミットサスペンス。渋谷の街を駆け回り、隠された真実をつかみ取れ。これが進化したサウンドノベル。428 封鎖された渋谷で12月4日発売。衝撃の結末を見逃すな。そして予約特典は長期にわたる渋谷ロケを敢行した428。その戦いの全てをスタッフとキャストが語り尽くす。渋谷60 days Making of 428。
Right. That's a
That was a little Japanese.
Yeah, I'm like, so
This is interesting. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Yeah. Admittedly, where to start with this?
Well, I can help you.
Yeah. Like,
So,
oh,
this is typically a visual novel with real footage shot in Tokyo. All right. So, we've been working with Spike Jonze for a while now. So, the first title we ever did was taking Danganronpa, the first episode, to PC. All right, because they were, Japanese companies are, there's no PC market. There's no PC game market in Japan. And a few Japanese companies out there, they realize their PC and Steam is actually a very big market in the West. So one of those companies that are that progressive and taking, their brand to PC in the West is Spike Chunsoft. There are a couple more.
yeah.
So this is how we got started. This game is all Japanese, and we're involved in localization. Okay, so there's a
Godspeed,
localization
friend.
company. What? Sorry?
Godspeed, friend. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And there's, the problem with localization, of course, is not just the translation. I mean, people have been playing this game, in the West already by using, Wikipedias with, translations and all that. People spending time in their, spare time translating all of that. The biggest problem with doing that, of course, there's some in this game as well. There's some typical Japanese things that don't translate that well. So you have to be very free and very liberal in the way you translate those things. That is what localization is about. It's more than just translations, of course. So this is being carried out by a company that directed by Spike Jonze. Okay, so we're going to get all the localization data from them. But we're taking this game to PC and PS4. All right, and since a couple months, we have actually a Japanese-speaking guy named Farah Nasri, and he has been with us for a couple months, and he has actually lived in Japan, and he knows Japanese, obviously, but he also knows what all the kind of intricacies of being in Japan and culture and all that stuff, and it's been really helpful. That was actually, and this is another topic later on, but we're working with SNK Playmore as well, right? So, and for that job that we're working on, they actually asked us to whether we would have someone that speaks Japanese in our team, and we didn't back then, so we hired one. And because he's there, he can help out with this as well. And he was actually, the only one in the company capable of telling me what this game was about, right? So we were looking at this game played on a piece on a PS3, I believe, looking at it, and he was doing all translations and calling out what was happening and all that stuff. And it's an amazing game. It's really cool. So I guess with help of with our work and our team, people in the West are actually going to be able to enjoy it, and not just the few that use translations from the internet, the diehards. So it's going to open up to a broader market. I think this is really a jewel right there.
Right. So, what made Spike Chunsoft choose this for localization? If you know, because it's a very Japanese game.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. Well, I guess. Well, one answer could be, but it's just me guessing.
Fair enough.
Is that they've been very successful with taking their games to the West. With our help as well, but generally the Steam audience has been wonderful. They really love their games. They love them for taking the stuff to West as well. All right. This is such a nice game, a really good production, high quality game. It needs to be everywhere. But still, like I said, localization is really tough. So they're spending a lot of money on getting localization right, and translating cultural stuff like I don't know, context to a Western market. They're doing that, and there's a lot of work for us to actually change the game in certain places to accommodate this, right?
Mhm.
I guess they just wanted to be make enable people to play it outside Japan because it's such a good game.
Hmm. That is perhaps one reason. It is also, yeah. Well, it's not just like the market for Japanese games, but the market for visual novels has really exploded
Right.
In recent years.
Mhm.
We certainly we know like visual novel localizers, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And like last year, we talked to a Japanese company about their updating of a visual novel. So it's definitely a market now. So
It is, yeah, for sure.
that being said, 428 Shibuya Scramble is apparently its full name,
Mm-hmm.
according to Wikipedia, anyway. Like,
It's probably right then.
yeah, it's like, but and anyway, so this isn't a straight visual novel; it's a visual novel adventure game, like Danganronpa.
Yeah. Right. And there's this, multiple parallel intertwined storylines where you get to a certain point and you get sort of stuck with one character. There's like 5 characters or so, 5 like storylines as well. And then you have to switch to another character that happens to meet this other character, that sort of thing. And you have to basically rewind time, if you will, and then you'll be able to prevent a certain event from happening in another character line. It's very complicated, but that's also the replay value about this game. But it's also a really cool feature of this type of game. There's a lot of depth to this game because of that.
I'd have to take your word for it because I've never played it. Like, maybe when it gets localized, we'll review it. But
sure, you should.
I'm not sure if I talked to you or Spike Chunsoft about that, but that's the point being is this is a game that was, as you mentioned, locked away in Japan. Now, it has actually seen a couple of releases since. Because it was originally a Wii game.
Right, in 2009.
Yeah. But it's also seen releases on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation Portable, iOS, and Android. And I suppose the question that as it relates to here is, what version are you working from, and rather, how are you adapting this game to, like modern technology? Like, are you updating the assets to be HD and so on and so forth?
Yeah. Of course. So we aren't, it's not like we're up-resing textures or anything. I mean, the footage is really, really good. So it stretches really well to full HD. So there's no worries there because it's footage. It's different than stills, So we're doing some work on UI to address that and make that pixel perfect and all that stuff on modern hardware. But there's not a lot that we need to do beyond that because the content is already in a very, very high quality, especially the original content that we have at our disposal. All right, so it's just a case of reworking all that and making it shine on, and reworking it for those target platforms. So that's not a big issue in this case.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Now, also it being a Wii game, were there any like gimmicks that you had to work around?
We were, we're only getting started. So it's too early to tell whether we had to work around certain gimmicks or whatever. Uh, but I don't foresee a lot of reworking that way. I think the code and everything we received so far is pretty straightforward, at least for us. We've seen worse, so to speak. So I guess we'll be okay. I think the real big issue is not going to be in doing the straightforward port thing where we make sure that it's going to work on the target platforms, but more going to be in iteration over localization, and that includes changing artwork, and testing, a lot of testing, and then polishing and polishing and polishing. That is going to be the bulk of the work.
Right. And is this going to be a straight port localization effort, or is there like additional content being built for this version?
No additional content, and I don't think the game needs additional content either. We just have to make sure that it feels like it's a PS4 and or a PC game, a Steam game. So there's going to be achievements and all that stuff, obviously, and it just needs to feel like it has been designed from the ground up for those target platforms, which is basically what we always strive for.
Of course. Before I move on, Galich, you're our localization linguistics expert. Do you have any questions about this game?
It sounds like it was covered. You've asked most of the questions I would have asked, but it is definitely an interesting undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we've interviewed localization people who do visual novels before, and anything with that much text and cultural content, it certainly is a job.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I mean, Spike and us as well, we know this, right? So we've always realized when we signed up for this that this was going to be quite an undertaking, right? So we want to nail this, and this is why Spike is spending really a lot of money on just localization, on with multiple iterations and testing and LQA and all that kind of stuff. I've never seen a project like this before with so much spent on LQA and localization in general.
Well, I'm like, I suppose, how many people from your end are working on this?
About 6, which includes a producer and a bit of design. It's like we have, the way we work though is, this is just a rough figure because we have this bigger and bigger studio with various people, mostly generalists, right? But there are some people that have specializations, and we try to ramp them, get them on board and then off again if the specific job is done. So we're a very kind of fluid kind of organization, and this is one part why we're kind of successful in doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. All right. So we should advance here, given the time. Next up is Danganronpa Ultra Despair Girls by Spike Chunsoft.
Right. So this one is the only thing. Well, I don't want to play it down, but really the only thing we're doing here is providing consultancy. So the original developer is doing their own port. All right, so they're taking it to PC, but since we're the experts on PC and they're not, they're asking us to act as some kind of front portal to QA, if you will, right? So we know what Steam users in the West are going to expect of any kind of game in terms of UI, in terms of whatever, in terms of achievements. So rather than doing the port ourselves with Danganronpa 1 and 2, the original developer is doing it themselves, and we are there to tell them what doesn't work and what does work, right? So and we have outsourced our own QA to an external team, and we're handling all that kind of stuff, and providing feedback, and they go in and they fix stuff, and it's just kind of a it's a very interesting kind of deal and a different, very interesting kind of dynamic going on there. So, yeah, but that's basically what we're doing.
And does it feel odd to be in a support role after you've, you worked on like the initial versions of Danganronpa for the PC and then ported it to PS4?
Right. You mean like, okay, why didn't we get this deal? Something like that?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. So there's, we've been working with Japanese companies for a while now, and Spike Johnson was the first one, and they are like, they would love us to work on stuff as much as we could provide. All right, so they trust us. They know we can get stuff done, but they have to work with Japanese original developers, and not everyone is that open or used to work with external developers. Like there's, even signing an NDA with some Japanese firms is very hard. And then even then, if you have an NDA in place, then providing information, that is, something for them really to consider. So I guess this was just a case of the original developer not being open to do that, and maybe apart from that, they have like they already know how to do this from a technical perspective, and they don't need anyone else, and have enough people to work on that, and that's fine. And at the same time, we didn't have any time or a team to work on that stuff as well at the same time. So I'm pretty happy with this because it's not like this deal for us is like it's going to make a super big difference in terms of cash flow and all that kind of stuff. But we're still involved. We're still involved with Spike Johnson and their IP, which is great. So I'm very happy with that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's actually really good to know. Especially given the switch off there. But okay, so up next we have undisclosed project by SNK Playmore.
Yeah. So that's it. Yeah, it's undisclosed. So I can't tell you anything about that really, apart from what I can tell you that it's their flagship product, right? It's like super important to them. They're and I'm not going to say yes or no or anything you mentioned, but it's rest assured it's a very important project to them. It's something that evolved and yet again, and they chose us to work with for PC. Same thing. We obviously, and there's plenty more companies in the West that know the West, but we have a track record of working with Japanese firms. So, but this really took 3 years to get to a deal. I've been with guys from SNK, like the American guys working there in Japan with SNK Playmore. I've been meeting them for 3 years at like GDC and Gamescom and everywhere, and it took that amount of time for them to feel like, okay, we should do this, right? And then still, once they said yes, we should work with Abstraction, then it still took like 4 months or so to get a deal signed. But we made it. We're working on it right now, and we're close to finishing it. And it's an adaptation of an original title for PS4 to PC, to Steam, right? And we're almost there. And it's been a very nice ride so far, and I think we're gonna nail it. So that's awesome. But you have to realize that Japanese companies they have no such background as working with non-Japanese developers. They're very protective of their IP and their culture and everything. And the fact that we've almost completed a game for a Japanese company of that kind of stature, like SNK Playmore, for crying out loud, that says something. I'm very proud of that.
No doubt. Like we've certainly heard, and I've certainly heard stories about Japanese companies, not just in video games, but just in general, being very protective, very slow, very meticulous in these matters.
That's right. And
So-
still, I mean, there's even when we, in this project, there's been so much, bandwidth on just Skype messages and emails and so much things that we would consider like, okay, so, or anyone in the West would consider, is this really necessary to scrutinize at this level? But yeah, I mean, this is their way of working, and they're already super progressive in allowing a European company to work with them on their super important IP, right? So what else can we do than just appreciate what we're being offered? This is a great honor for us to work on, and since we're Dutch, we adapt anyway. That's in our culture, so I guess that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because on our last show we had another porting studio on our program talking about their experiences, and it definitely mirrors what's going on here, although perhaps even at a higher level, given the companies involved.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it certainly corroborates what I've heard with various Japanese developers.
Right.
And yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back on the program once you're fully able to talk about this particular project.
Yeah. Sure.
Because yeah, it's like, especially when it's the super important stuff, the story of how it all transpired sometimes can't come out until it's out.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a thing for next time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, maybe in another 6 months, but we'll get there when we get there, because we still have other games to cover.
Yeah.
And the next one up is the Sexy Brutal, or is it Brutale?
Brutale.
Brutale, the Sexy Brutale by Cavalier and published by Tequila Works.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so you want me to play that one real quick, the trailer?
Yeah.
All right, one moment.
Yeah. Right. Now, for our listeners and viewers, the Sexy Brutale is probably among the most familiar of games on our list here, because, it came out, about a week and a half ago, something like that. Really recent release, and, it's been getting a lot of attention. Right, so you did the console versions of this game, right?
That's right. And some PC optimizations as well. So, we were hired to do the console adaptations of the PC version while it was still work in progress. Okay, so the game wasn't done.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, in order to help us help them help us, sort of, we also, went above and beyond to help them get stuff working. They had this great, fantastic idea and a lot of content, and a lot of stuff was there, but there was a lot of polish that needed to be done, and we've been there from whenever we stepped on board as console a porting house to help them get performance right, to a myriad of things that we were involved in that was not agreed on, let's say, before we started this mission. But they needed that kind of help, and I think it shows in the final result. I love this game. This is like, I'm a sucker for point-and-click adventure games anyway. This is not point-and-click per se, but it's very close to a puzzle adventure game, the types that I love. And they did something very special with this one. I think that the artwork is super beautiful. The style, art direction is great. I think the whole Groundhog Day kind of take on it is brilliant, and it's really fun to play. It's fantastic. So I love it. And yeah, it has a Metacritic of like 82 right now, I believe, and that's I think it's well deserved. It's really good.
Yeah, and it's been getting a lot of critical praise. Like from people like, say, Jim Sterling and such. It seems to be a legitimate game of the year contender, and given the year in games so far, that's a pretty lofty statement, actually. Now, like, I haven't personally played this game yet. I mean, I want to, but there's just so many games.
I know, right? It's crazy, especially in this I don't know, the last few months, 3 months or so. There's been so many games that came out, and I bought all these games, including AAA and indie and everything, and I have like a backlog of almost 10 games I need to start playing.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where, honestly, I've just started putting games on a review queue just so I can play them.
Right. I hear you. A fewer pain. So, but Cavalier, the studio behind it, it's their concept and everything. They created it. They're brilliant. They're former indie, former AAA developers. They start their own studio. We didn't know them, but we knew Tequila Works, and we know Tequila from Deadlight, the port we did for them, which with Koch Media, the publisher back then. And Tequila reached out to us for doing the Section Brutale. And so we've been, working this triangle kind of relationship with Cavalier and Tequila, mostly with Cavalier though, because they were creating a game and we need to help them, and we needed their input to do the console versions, of course. All Unity based, and as I think I've told this before on this program in the second or the first interview, Unity can be, it's great to, to prototype at the very least and to create a game if you know what you're doing. But there's, especially going to console, there's so many things you can take for granted on PC, like having virtual memory, like a virtually unlimited amount of space that you don't have on console. Apart from all the stuff, the quirks that are still in Unity present, that don't work like one-on-one, one-on-one correspondence on console. So naturally, as a porting house in working Unity, we have to, actually rewrite stuff in order for that specific feature to work on console. So, and then of course, we need to tell the original developer, in this case, Cavalier, we're doing it this way. Please use this from now on, especially if you're working on a work in progress piece of software, right? So this is very tricky. I honestly think that we had this game running in just a couple of weeks from the get-go, right? But then, they're still working on it, and we need to adapt, and then the performance is a problem, and loading times are like 10 minutes, reduce it to like instantaneous. That's what we did in the end. Going from one room to another where it would stall, like the animation and everything, like a hiccup, very noticeable. We needed to get rid of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of engineering you need to do to work around the quirks that is Unity 3D.
And was it difficult keeping pace with all that?
Yeah, I mean this. So typically, this was a small project, a small team working on it, and of course the deadlines were there, but then Cavalier had had real trouble delivering by a certain deadline because you know their game is super ambitious, and it shows. If you play the game, you'll see what I mean. It's from a very small indie team. This is a very very nice result. You don't see that often, right? So, and we notice, we appreciate that kind of stuff, and that's why this is why we don't have a problem, going in again and doing more work, even though that wasn't in any kind of contract or on paper. I don't care. We need to, get real high quality software out, and this is a jewel right there. So it deserves it.
Definitely. I hope to get around to playing it sometime this year. I mean, like I said, it's just there's just so much content out there right now.
Well, we do have a break coming up in July.
True, but I'm
Okay.
probably going to end up playing other games I've been wanting to play for months.
Yeah.
Well, let's just agree that you should have played it before we have our fourth interview.
I make no promises. Oh, I'm like, but moving onwards. So you got your own undisclosed game title. So you're finally reaching for that dream, because I remember, I think it was last time you mentioned you wanted to get into original development.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so rewind like 9 years and 8 months ago. That's when I started Abstraction Games, sole proprietor. Okay, it was just me, and it was Eric, and Eric was my buddy in crime, but not official on the payroll or anything. It was just, he was working at PlayLogic, and I was working at PlayLogic, and I became a freelancer under the label Abstraction Games, sole proprietor, and he was working with me in the night hours, and we worked on our first game because that was what we planned to do: create our own games, right? Just like any other indie studio of two people. And we failed miserably. We did our own game. It's called Potpourri. And no, forget I said that. It's not even worth looking at. It's such a bad game. But that's what you do when you create your first game. Is not going to work anyway. But that was the idea, right? And then we met like Chalingo, and we started porting. And I told you in the first interview about this, is that this is what we got really good at doing. And now we're doing more creative work, and it's all great. So, but ultimately the goal was to create our own games. But it's very hard to combine this with work for hire, because you have your clients, they're going to demand more. You're not going to say no to them, right? And that's even apart from the fact that you have a hard time actually finishing projects. Even more so if you're coping with, like, in the early days with indie developers that just decide, no, we're going to need another year to finish this game. So every project at some point became a work in progress rather than something we could go in and adapt and just get it over with. For 8.5 years, we've been, like working with this increasingly bigger team, just keeping our head above the water. And since 1.5 years, it's like, okay, this is behind us. Now we're making enough money to sustain ourselves, and now we can actually afford to put forward a separate team that's going to be dedicated on creating our own IP, right? That's what's happening right now. So I'm working with my lead designer on wading through like a number of concepts. I mentioned 5 earlier in my notes. It might be 6 or 7. I'm not sure. But there's a couple of concepts that we're working on that we're fleshing out, and we want to get that to a ready state for a team that we're already separating and making dedicated to work on prototyping. We're also getting more people on board, like a new lead designer, to manage that kind of process, right? So we're taking this very seriously, but we are at the very beginning right now in a professional kind of setting, if you will.
And how much can you talk about the game itself?
Well, that's that may sound lame,
Mhm.
but the problem is there's like 6 or 7 concepts right now,
Yeah.
and we have yet to pick one. And probably what we end up doing is working on two at the same time, or maybe three even, and not like taking this one concept or this other concept really seriously. It's more like getting this prototype team started. What we need to achieve is that we, through concepts, we get enough workload for a prototype team to start working on these prototypes, right? And there will be things that fail, and there will be things that, and we want to fail fast, like the very popular paradigm of fail fast and get to a position where you know, okay, this is actually going to work, right? So I couldn't tell you right now. I really don't know. There's like 5 of those concepts are just really you know concept that started like I don't know 5 years ago or something, or maybe 6, I don't know, and that got more iterations over time, that I personally thought about and contemplated. And there's a couple new from some other people, right? And right now I don't know what concept is going to win. Maybe it's going to be an amalgamation of several even, right? It's too early stage, but we're now, at least we're taking it very seriously, and we do have the people to work on it now, and that's very different from the past. So I'm actually pretty sure that I will be able to tell you a lot more detail on what we're working on in our next interview. Provided that it's going to be in 6 months from now.
Yeah, it's that's just how the timings worked out.
Mhm.
Just for anyone who's trying to discern if there's a pattern to this, it's actually been coincidental that it's been about 6 months each time.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, but then again, I think in 3 months from now or something, I think we're going to be in a very good shape. We have our prototype team started, and
mhm.
we're actually going to be able to see our first results of, okay, this is actually working. This was a very bad idea. Let's forget about it. That this process is going to be you're very solid and very needed to make first steps. And maybe we get lucky and we can start on an official title this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to need the remainder of this year actually to work through this prototype process, you know, and this means actually that we can, you know, have new concepts and provide them to the prototype team, because there will be so well oiled kind of machine going on that that are capable of taking a concept to something that is actually sustainable. That's what we're looking for. You need to build that kind of team. You don't buy it. This never going to work. At least not for me, because I don't have any precedent working on that kind of stuff myself, right?
Right.
And of course, you can hire people that have experience with that, but they need to be converted to our DNA and our way of working. So it's going to take time. That is inevitable, and I would be very happy if we can have a proper pre-production team working on a new concept early next year, like after all the prototyping work.
All right. So one question I want to ask, independent of this list, is what's missing from it, and that's a Switch title.
Oh, right. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And
okay, go on. Yeah.
I imagine that you will eventually port a game to the Switch. But my question is do you have access to dev kits and that sort of thing?
Yeah, we do. There's still we have dev kits, we have access to anything, but Nintendo is keeping new titles at bay until the second wave, which is probably going to be some end of Q3, Q4 ish. So although they given us access, it's you cannot release in 3 months from now, because they're gonna moderate everything, right? They're gonna curate everything, and they have their first wave of indie developers creating titles, and that's going to be the first wave, or first and a half wave of new content. And as you can see, in the news, like every day, there's some new Switch title or some new studio that's saying we're going to do this, and this has been planned for months. But we're just so late to do that, right? And we didn't have any content either, so that's not going to be a problem. However, we do have some content up our sleeves. We're not in a hurry, but we are thinking about taking Pitfall Planet to Switch, for instance.
So the what to the Switch?
Yeah, Pitfall Planet. This is a game that is hugely underappreciated. Look it up. It's on Steam. It's not a huge success or anything, but we've signed with the developer on the rights to take it to any console and Switch. We've decided to keep away from console and self-publishing right now, but Switch is going to be a different story. So I don't have 100% guarantee we'll do it, but I have, I'm very keen on getting that working.
Just to make sure that that's not Little Big Planet, correct?
No, it's not. No,
Yeah.
no. I wish. No, and of
Yeah.
course that is never going to a non-PlayStation platform. But no. So this is Pitfall Planet. All right.
Pitiful Planet.
Yeah.
Like,
So there's one thing I can mention. I would love to see this happen, and it isn't a big deal in terms of production. Hell, if I find some time in a vacation, I can do it myself, probably from a technical point of view. But I don't have that kind of time. And if I have a vacation, I spend it with family, and of course doing interviews. Right now. But no, seriously, I think this is a beautiful title, and it's something you control like two robots, very cutesy robots. These robots map like perfectly to the two Joy-Con. All right, so it's a no-brainer almost. But let's see. I'm not making promises, but the only promise I'm making is that I'm going to be zooming into it. I really would like this to work. All right, so there's a couple of other ideas I cannot disclose right now, but I'm if anything, I'm a Nintendo fanboy anyway. But apart from that aside, I'm a huge fan of the Switch. I love it. I played Zelda, of course. I love everything about the console. We have it. We took it away on vacation right now, so it's sitting in the vacation house living room, the TV. In the past, we had to like move a console or multiple consoles. They are huge, right? In our luggage. This time it's like this tiny thing, and I think there's a great benefit to working with Switch. If you can think of a game that works on the go as much as it works on your TV screen at home, you have something. You have like something that really works. So I'm going to be focusing on that as well. My mindset.
Makes sense. And what you tell us certainly lines up with we've spoken to other developers who have worked on the Switch. Like recently, we spoke to like Frozen Byte and Zoink Games, and they and yeah, it's like Nintendo is deliberately curating things right now.
Yeah.
Now, anyway, so we found the Steam page for Pitfall Planet. And if you want, we can play the trailer so our viewers and such can see what this game is.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead. By all means. Yep. We are not involved in the original PC version, but I don't care. I mean, it's a good game. So.
Right. This isn't necessarily what a potential Switch version would look like or anything. It's just this is what the game is currently.
Yeah. And I think anyone can see how this would work on Switch. It's so natural with the two Joy-Con that you can separate, give one Joy-Con to another player in the park, wherever. It just makes sense.
Okay. Petty Fan, got that queued up?
I am resizing it now.
All right. Just give us the word.
All right. All right, that should be good. All right, I'm going to be starting it here in just a moment.
Live broadcasting. Right, and just to emphasize for any news organizations who might be listening to this interview, this doesn't mean that Pitfall Planet here is coming to the Switch or it's in development. It's just we are talking about the potentiality of this game coming to the Switch. And just make sure people's headlines are clear.
Very good.
Yeah, it's happened before. I'm like. So, and indeed, on that note, I see it's about 12 o'clock. We should be really wrap this up. Ralph, I want to thank you very much for joining us on such short notice.
You're welcome.
Not just taking time out of your schedule, but taking time out of your vacation schedule to do work things.
Yeah, no problem. I love you guys. So it was really wonderful to have this third session with you. Is always fun, so appreciate it.
No problem. Like I said, we'll eventually have a fourth one. I'll, whenever that may be. Maybe 6 months, maybe later, maybe sooner. Like it's not determined right now. Anyway, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Be sure to join us tomorrow for our evening episode. We're going to have Benedict Fritz of AEIOWU. I still don't know how to pronounce that. And we'll be talking about the Roly roguelike. We're still not exactly sure what outside of a roguelike this game is in Tumbleseed. Now, until then, I wish you good gaming.